The story opens in the dusty, sun-drenched town of Red Creek, a small western settlement surrounded by endless plains and rolling hills. The town is quiet in the early morning, with only the creaking of wooden signs and the distant clop of a horse breaking the stillness. Our protagonist, Jack Callahan, a rugged rancher in his late 30s, is riding into town to pick up supplies for his ranch. He's known in the town as a quiet, reliable man, a man who respects hard work, honesty, and the value of a steady hand. As Jack nears the train station, he notices a small crowd gathered, whispers of concern hanging in the air. His horse snorts nervously, sensing something unusual. Amid the scattered luggage and the dusty platform, Jack sees her, a young woman, no older than 24, slumped against a crate. Her face is bruised and swollen, one eye nearly closed. Her hands trembling slightly. The sight hits Jack like a physical blow. He's seen many hardships, flooded fields, cattle gone missing, storms, but never such visible, raw, human suffering in a stranger. In her hand, she clutches a folded piece of paper. Jack's instincts tell him it's important, but he doesn't rush her. He dismounts slowly, keeping his voice calm and gentle. "Hey, are you all right? Can I help you?" he asks, his tone firm yet caring. The woman flinches at first, wary from her recent trauma. But there's a glimmer of trust in her eyes as she looks at him. She's expecting rejection, suspicion, or worse, indifference. But Jack's genuine concern is a surprising contrast. Jack notices the note in her hand. She's hesitant to show it, trembling, but eventually she hands it over. The paper is simple, the handwriting small and delicate. "Please help me. I have nowhere else to go. Don't let him find me." The words are brief, but they carry a heavy weight. Fear, desperation, and hope. Jack feels a surge of protective instinct. This is no ordinary mail-order bride transaction. This is a young woman running from harm, clutching at a thin thread of safety. The bruises on her face tell a silent story. Jack's mind pieces together what likely happened. A controlling suitor, or perhaps an abusive family member, who forced her into this arrangement against her will. The train, the journey, and her abandonment suggest a woman seeking freedom in the wild, unpredictable frontier. Her bravery is evident, even if she doesn't recognize it herself. Jack decides then and there that he will not let her face the world alone. He approaches carefully, offering his hand. "You're not alone now," he says, the words simple but loaded with meaning. The young woman's eyes well up with tears, not just from pain, but from the first glimmer of hope she's felt in days. She nods silently, too exhausted to speak, and allows him to help her up. There's a tentative trust forming, fragile but real. Jack wraps a coat around her shoulders, shielding her from the chill morning air. He scans the station, ensuring no one dangerous is nearby, and then guides her to his horse. The ride back to the ranch is quiet, but the silence is comforting rather than oppressive. Jack doesn't press her for details. He knows that trust must be earned. For her part, the young woman feels a mixture of fear and relief. She's still wary, but there's a safe presence beside her, someone willing to protect her without demanding explanations. As they near the ranch, the wide-open fields seem less intimidating and more like a sanctuary. The ranch, with its sturdy wooden fences and weathered barns, promises stability, safety, and a chance at recovery. Jack introduces her to the basics: water, food, a bed. Simple acts that communicate care without words. She finally allows herself a moment to rest, curled in a warm blanket in a quiet room. And the first real peace she's known in weeks washes over her. In this opening outline, the focus is on discovery, empathy, and the establishment of trust. It sets the stage for the story. A damaged young woman seeking safety, and a rancher whose natural kindness and steady presence offer her a lifeline. The note becomes a symbolic bridge between her past terror and a potential future, and Jack's declaration, "You're not alone now," is the thematic anchor of the story, an assertion that even in the harsh, unforgiving landscape of the West, human kindness can create a safe harbor. This segment emphasizes atmosphere: dusty plains, quiet town, early morning. Character introduction: Jack as a rugged yet compassionate rancher. And emotional stakes: the young woman's fear and vulnerability. It's a foundation for subsequent events: her recovery, their bonding, the revelation of her backstory, and the eventual confrontation with the dangers she fled from. And after the initial rescue, the young woman, let's call her Emily, spends the first night at Jack's ranch in quiet solitude. The ranch itself is a sprawling, sun-baked property with rolling pastures, old wooden barns, and a sturdy farmhouse. It represents safety, but also the isolation that mirrors Emily's life up until now. The morning light pours through the windows, illuminating the bruises on her face. Though Jack has provided food and a warm bed, he knows that physical care alone cannot heal what her soul carries. Emily's backstory slowly emerges in fragments, through hesitant words, pauses, and the subtle expressions of fear and trauma she cannot yet articulate fully. She tells Jack about the man who arranged her mail order placement, a wealthy but cruel suitor who demanded obedience and punished resistance with violence. Her bruises are not a result of a single event, but a pattern of intimidation and abuse. The note she clutched in her hand at the train station becomes more poignant. Her last act of defiance, a desperate plea to anyone who could help her. Jack listens carefully, never interrupting, his presence calm and grounded. This is critical for Emily. Her previous life taught her that people often react with judgment or suspicion. Jack's acceptance is unconditional. This listening scene is essential. It conveys that trust is being rebuilt, that she has a safe person to share her fears with. The narrative emphasizes the psychological weight of her past trauma. Nights of terror, being moved between distant relatives, and the constant dread of her suitor tracking her down. These layers create empathy and deepen her characterization. Meanwhile, the danger she fled from is not fully gone. Jack notices subtle signs: a man on horseback, observing the outskirts of his property from a distance, a stranger asking unusual questions in town, and unexplained tracks near the barn. These elements create suspense, showing the stakes are still high. Emily begins to realize that freedom in the West is tenuous. It's not just the physical distance that matters, but the vigilance required to stay safe. Jack begins to take practical steps to ensure her safety. He reinforces the ranch's boundaries, trains his dog to alert him to intruders, and discreetly keeps watch on town activity. More than just physical protection, he provides a routine and stability, a stark contrast to Emily's chaotic and frightening previous life. He encourages her to take small steps, like walking to the nearby creek for fresh water, or helping feed the animals, to restore a sense of normalcy and autonomy. Emotionally, this phase of the story is about cautious bonding. Emily begins to relax in Jack's presence, though she is still haunted by flashbacks of her abuse. Jack's role is multifaceted: protector, listener, and patient guide. He does not rush her, understanding that recovery from trauma is gradual. The narrative may explore her hesitations, moments of withdrawal, and the fear that any sudden change could bring back the terror she fled. A pivotal scene occurs when Emily accidentally drops the note she carried for weeks. Jack picks it up, and instead of pressuring her, he simply asks if she's ready to talk about it. She hesitates, then reveals the full story. Her suitor had connections in several towns, and she was forced to board the train as a last attempt to escape. The realization that someone is still searching for her heightens the tension. Jack promises to protect her and reassures her that she is not alone, reinforcing the story's central theme. The landscape of the West also plays a role here. The open plains, while beautiful, symbolize both opportunity and vulnerability. Emily's fear of being found is contrasted against the vastness of the frontier, emphasizing that freedom requires courage and vigilance. This backdrop amplifies the suspense and underscores the stakes of her recovery and survival. This outline also introduces subtle dynamics between the characters, the beginnings of mutual reliance. Emily sees Jack not only as a savior, but as someone capable of providing a life she never imagined for herself, one that includes safety, dignity, and perhaps even trust in another human being. Jack, in turn, begins to feel a protective attachment beyond mere responsibility. He recognizes her strength and resilience. By the end of this outline, the stage is set for the next phase. Emily's slow healing, their growing bond, and the eventual confrontation with the threats from her past. Suspense builds as the reader anticipates how Jack and Emily will navigate the lingering danger, whether she will fully trust him, and what the West has in store for both of them. After the tense events of Emily's arrival and the revelation of her past, life on Jack's ranch gradually becomes a rhythm of routine, safety, and cautious optimism. The story at this stage focuses on recovery, character growth, and the initial development of intimacy. Not yet romantic, but emotional trust that paves the way for deeper connection. Emily's physical healing is the first visible sign of progress. Jack, understanding the fragility of her condition, ensures she has proper food, rest, and basic medical attention. He cleans and dresses her bruises, and while his actions are practical, there's a gentleness in his touch that Emily instinctively feels. For the first time in her life, someone is treating her as a person with dignity, not as an object or commodity. This contrast to her prior experiences highlights her relief and slowly allows her walls to drop. Even if just slightly, Jack introduces Emily to the routines of ranch life. At first, she's hesitant, afraid of making mistakes, but Jack patiently teaches her how to feed the animals, mend fences, and handle basic chores. Each task becomes a metaphor for healing. Just as the land and animals require attention and care, so does Emily's body and spirit. Through these moments, she begins to regain confidence in her own abilities, reclaiming a sense of autonomy that had been stripped from her. The narrative emphasizes small moments of connection that deepen their bond. For example, while mending a fence together, Jack tells her stories of the ranch's history and his own childhood. He shares anecdotes of failures, hard lessons, and minor triumphs, illustrating that life is messy but manageable with patience and resilience. Emily listens, absorbing not only the stories, but the implicit lesson. Trust, patience, and resilience are paths to freedom and stability. Emily, in turn, starts opening up about her dreams, though cautiously. She talks about wanting to see fields of wildflowers, to read books she never had time for, and to live somewhere where no one can hurt her. Jack listens without judgment, affirming her desires as valid. In these moments, the emotional intimacy between them grows. Emily begins to associate Jack's presence with safety, warmth, and acceptance, an emotional refuge in a world that had been hostile. Amid these developments, tension still simmers under the surface. Emily's fear of being found by her abuser never fully disappears. Strange occurrences, like a distant horse appearing on the horizon or an unfamiliar rider in the nearby town, serve as reminders of the outside threat. These moments heighten suspense, illustrating that recovery and trust exist alongside real danger. Jack's calm, proactive approach to protecting her reinforces the sense of security she is learning to feel, making their bond stronger. The story also uses the Western landscape to reflect their emotional journey. Wide, sunlit fields symbolize freedom and opportunity, while shadowed barns and isolated trails represent lingering fear and vulnerability. Emily's gradual movement from fear to cautious curiosity mirrors her navigation through these spaces, emphasizing that her journey toward healing is both internal and external. A particularly pivotal moment occurs one evening when a storm sweeps across the plains. Rain pelts the farmhouse windows, and thunder rolls through the valleys. Emily, frightened, finds herself trembling, not from the storm, but from memories it evokes of past nights spent hiding from violence. Jack notices, offering a hand and a calm presence. Together, they sit by the fire, sharing the warmth and safety of the room. Emily leans into the trust that has been slowly cultivated. This intimate, yet non-romantic moment underscores the emotional dependence growing between them. Jack is becoming her anchor, and Emily is learning to rely on another human being without fear. Another scene might involve Jack teaching Emily to ride a horse across the plains. She's nervous at first, recalling the chaos of past journeys, but with Jack beside her, guiding her, she begins to trust not only the animal but herself. Each small success builds her confidence and subtly cements a bond with Jack that is part protection, part mutual respect, and part emotional comfort. These experiences also allow Jack to observe her strength, resilience, and spirit, qualities that deepen his admiration and care for her. Throughout this outline, dialogue is used sparingly but meaningfully. When Emily expresses fear or doubt, Jack responds with reassurance, patience, and encouragement. When he shares a story of his own struggles, Emily listens and empathizes. Their connection develops through action, shared experiences, and unspoken understanding, more than explicit declarations, which makes the eventual evolution of their relationship feel organic. By the end of Outline 3, Emily has made significant progress. She's physically recovering, gaining self-confidence, and beginning to trust another person. Jack has become her protector and emotional anchor. Suspense remains present due to the ongoing threat from her past, but the foundation of emotional connection and mutual reliance is now strong. The story is poised to escalate. Danger from her abuser will eventually confront them, testing the bond they've built and forcing Emily to face the past she has been running from. By now, Emily has settled into a fragile sense of security at Jack's ranch, and their bond has deepened. However, the tranquility of the Western Plains cannot last forever. Suspense builds as the story approaches its climax. The looming threat from her past arrives, forcing both characters to confront danger head-on. The narrative tension begins to rise with subtle signs of intrusion. Horses appear at the outskirts of the property. Tracks are discovered near the barn, and townspeople report seeing unfamiliar riders asking about the ranch. Emily grows visibly anxious, her past trauma resurfacing in vivid flashbacks. She remembers the bruises, the harsh words, and the helplessness of her previous life. The fear she thought she had escaped returns, this time intensified by the knowledge that she is not alone. Jack is now a potential target as well. Jack's awareness of these signs demonstrates his experience as a rancher and protector. He immediately begins preparations, securing the property, checking weapons, and strategically planning to safeguard Emily. This action not only reinforces his protective role, but also heightens the story's suspense, creating a tense atmosphere where every shadow and distant noise could signal danger. The confrontation begins when a small group of riders arrives at the ranch, led by a man who exudes menace. He is likely Emily's abuser or an agent of him, representing the life she desperately fled. The dialogue between them is charged with tension. The intruder makes demands, threatens Emily, and attempts to assert control. Emily, though initially frozen with fear, is bolstered by the presence of Jack and the sanctuary of the ranch. She begins to realize that she has allies and resources that she lacked in her previous life. The physical and emotional confrontation is layered. Jack takes a defensive stance, using both strategy and force to protect Emily. The fight may involve horseback chases across the plains, hand-to-hand scuffles near the barns, and clever use of the ranch's terrain for cover. These action sequences are intense but grounded in realism. Jack is a capable rancher, familiar with firearms and the land, while Emily's role is active but cautious, highlighting her growing courage and resourcefulness. Amid the chaos, Emily confronts her abuser verbally, finding a voice she didn't have before. This confrontation is as much psychological as it is physical. She asserts her independence, refusing to be treated as property or as a victim. Her words, paired with Jack's support, signify her emotional transformation. This moment is crucial. It demonstrates that Emily has not only recovered from the past trauma, but is also empowered to fight for her future. The climax reaches its peak when Jack and Emily work together to repel the intruders. Jack's strength and tactical thinking are complemented by Emily's quick thinking and courage, whether in distracting the attackers, securing the ranch, or signaling for help from neighboring ranchers or townspeople. The tension is at its highest, with stakes not only for Emily's physical safety, but also for her emotional autonomy and freedom. After the confrontation, the intruders are defeated or forced to retreat, leaving Emily safe. The resolution of the conflict brings an emotional release, relief, gratitude, and the deepening bond between her and Jack. The audience witnesses a transformation in Emily, from frightened, bruised, and isolated to strong, self-assured, and connected to someone who truly cares for her. This section also underscores the story's thematic elements: resilience, trust, and the possibility of a new beginning. The Western setting amplifies the drama. The wide plains offer both vulnerability and opportunity. The rugged terrain provides tactical advantage, and the isolation of the ranch mirrors the emotional journey from fear to empowerment. By the end of Outline 4, Emily has faced the threat that haunted her, and Jack has proven himself as her protector. Their bond, forged through care, trust, and shared struggle, is stronger than ever. The story is now ready to move toward resolution and emotional closure, where the focus shifts from survival to rebuilding a life together, filled with hope and companionship. After the climactic confrontation, life at the ranch gradually returns to a sense of calm. The wide-open plains, which once symbolized both freedom and vulnerability, now embody a safe haven, a space where Emily can finally begin to fully heal and imagine a life beyond fear. The story's resolution emphasizes emotional closure, personal growth, and the establishment of lasting trust and connection between the characters. Emily's physical bruises have mostly faded, replaced by the glow of health and vitality, nurtured by proper care, good food, and restful nights. But more importantly, her emotional wounds, long hidden and festering from past abuse, are beginning to mend. The ranch, the routines, and Jack's consistent presence offer stability and normalcy, giving her the confidence to regain independence and agency over her life. This is reflected in small, meaningful actions: tending the garden, riding horses freely across the plains, and laughing without fear. Each act symbolizes reclaimed autonomy and trust in herself and her surroundings. Jack's role evolves naturally from protector to partner in daily life. He treats Emily not as someone to shelter indefinitely, but as a collaborator in building their shared world. Their interactions are filled with warmth, understanding, and gentle humor, moments that reveal a bond founded on respect, trust, and care. For example, Jack might show Emily how to repair a fence more efficiently, and she teases him for his overly meticulous methods, sparking laughter and intimacy. These interactions demonstrate that their relationship has grown beyond survival. It has become a partnership built on mutual support. The story explores Emily's psychological recovery as well. She no longer flinches at shadows or unexpected noises. She moves freely around the ranch, confident in her ability to respond if danger arises. The previously constant anxiety that colored her days has diminished, replaced with a cautious optimism. This transformation is subtle but profound. She has learned that fear does not have to define her, and that the support of a trustworthy companion can provide a foundation for strength and courage. The western landscape mirrors this newfound peace. Sunsets over the fields, golden light spilling across barns and pastures, symbolize not only freedom, but also hope and renewal. The once harsh and unforgiving land has become a sanctuary, reflecting the emotional journey of the characters. Emily and Jack spend quiet evenings on the porch, observing the horizon and sharing stories of the future they might build together. The setting reinforces the story's themes: endurance, trust, and the possibility of happiness after trauma. An essential element of this resolution is the importance of trust and companionship. Emily openly expresses gratitude to Jack, not only for saving her life, but for giving her the chance to experience care, autonomy, and safety. Jack, in turn, acknowledges the courage and resilience Emily has shown, highlighting that their bond is mutual. Neither is wholly dependent on the other, but both recognize the value of having someone to lean on in a world that is unpredictable and often harsh. This emotional symmetry strengthens the story's conclusion. A symbolic scene might include Emily revisiting the note she carried when she first arrived. Unlike before, when it represented fear and desperation, she now reads it in a new light, as a testament to survival and a reminder of how far she has come. Jack observes quietly, offering a comforting presence, This moment provides emotional closure for Emily's arc, emphasizing that she has transitioned from a vulnerable, fleeing figure to someone empowered, resilient, and capable of facing the future. The story closes with a sense of hope and continuity. The ranch is not just a place of refuge. It is a home, a foundation for a new life. Emily and Jack continue their routines, work together, and plan for the future, whether that includes expanding the ranch, caring for animals, or simply enjoying the beauty of the Western Plains. Their shared experiences and the trust they have cultivated suggest a lasting partnership. This resolution also subtly implies the possibility of romantic development, though it is portrayed naturally, arising from shared experiences, mutual respect, and emotional intimacy, rather than forced declarations. The narrative ends with a quiet affirmation. Emily is no longer alone. Jack's presence is a source of security and warmth, and together they have the freedom to build a life grounded in hope, resilience, and companionship.